start our town halls with something that we don't allow our students in school to do anymore, sadly, and that is we rise and we say our pledge to our flag. You can put your hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I gotta say that I am still, I don't know about you, but I am still on a high from the president's winning week. We had a State of the Union party, State of the Union watching party in Ramona. Ramona is a great community, but it's relatively small. Over 85 people there to watch the president, and then we did a town hall right after that. And then yesterday we were in Fallbrook to celebrate the dismissal. I don't even want to call it acquittal because it's an improper charge. It's an abuse of power by the House of Representatives. The actual notion that there was an impeachment, but the dismissal, the rejection of the scam of impeachment. And so we have a lot to be excited about. But one of the reasons why I'm running for Congress is that I am so sick and tired of not seeing a fight put up for our values. I see in the state of California, the Republican Party, I nicknamed the dumpster fire. They've given up everything. They've surrendered. They've handed this state over to Democrat socialism. And so part of the reason that motivates me, and on the radio every single day for 5 years, it was so frustrating to say, look what they're doing. Is there anyone who's going to step forward and say, this is not the right way to go, this is a failed concept, and here's a better alternative? We didn't get Republicans to do that. In fact, a lot of times the Republicans in Sacramento would cross over and actually vote with the Democrats. It's been a complete and utter mess. I think many of them have Stockholm syndrome. You know, they're no better than a potted plant. Give them some water, turn them towards the light, but they're not really leading. And then I watched what was going on in Washington. We have our president with an amazing agenda. He's the first politician in a long time who has given us clarity on his position. He has been crystal clear. He has been bold. He's been audacious in saying this is what we're going to do. He didn't just say we need to deal with illegal immigration. We've heard that before. You hear it from some of the people in this race. What he said is we're going to build a wall. What else did he say? Mexico's going to pay for it. And it's clarity. And that clarity is what I believe people are seeking, because we've been burned so many times by politicians who give us nice fluff. But without that clarity, we really don't know what we've signed on for. He gave us clarity. And they hated him for it. They hated the fact that he was willing to say what most Americans were waiting a long time to hear a leader say. That they were going to make America great again. That they were going to put America first. That they were going to rebuild our military. That our military wasn't going to be some social agenda. It was actually going to get the job done of defending the homeland. That they were going to uphold the rule of law. That they were going to cut taxes and roll back regulations. Get government out of our lives. He said exactly what we've been waiting someone to hear from our elected officials. And then, to add it all up, to top it all off, he gets to Washington. And what were all the pundits saying? Well, of course he's gonna change his tune now and he's gonna play nice. No, he actually is keeping his word, which is so refreshing. He said, this is what I ran on, this is what we're gonna do. Now we know, and we can expect, and we should not be surprised by, that Democrats are doing everything they can to stop him, to obstruct, to block, to defeat him. Not a surprise. But what is particularly galling is the fact that the president's own party, members of the president's own party, have knifed him. Many of them knifing him as they smile, saying, oh, we're going to support him. And some coming right out and betraying him. Mitt Romney, John McCain. There's a whole list of them. But the ones that I see are the ones that look us in the eyes, smile, and say, I've got his back, and then... One example of that, because there's many. The House and the Senate and the White House, for 2 years, were controlled by the Republicans. Republicans have run on securing the border for about 25 years, 30 years. Got a president who actually says, oh, no, we're actually going to do it. All I need is $6 billion to build that wall. And when the Republicans controlled the whole kit and caboodle, what did they do? They knifed him. They turned on him. They broke their commitment. And so when the majority switched over, and that wasn't the only commitment that they broke. Remember repeal and replace Obamacare? Remember how they said, oh, wait till you see the replacement plan, you're going to love it. All you need to do is give us the House and we'll get rid of Obamacare and we'll replace it. That was 2010. Then they said, oh, you know what? We need the Senate. So that replacement plan, secret replacement plan. Top secret. It's in the drawer right here. What you need to do is give us the Senate and then we're really going to cook with Crisco. So we gave them the Senate. That was 2014. Then what did they say? I know, you gave us Congress, House, and Senate, but what we really also need is the White House. So give us the White House in 2016. And the president said, yeah, that's right, repeal and replace, we're going to do it. They had it all. The president walks in and says, okay, let me see the replacement plan. Non-existent. Can you imagine the loss of credibility? For you to say, I mean, it's right to criticize a broken, dysfunctional system of Obamacare. Higher costs, less choice, less quality. It's a disaster. But you are obliged, if something's broken, how are you going to fix it? What's your solution? What's the grand idea? How do we inspire people? Because the left has all sorts of spooky, dingbat, crazy ideas they trot out. Green New Deal. Banning the plastic straws. Condemning Mother Teresa. Whatever they're going to do next, it's going to be something that you're like, what? But they're always out there throwing out their detailed legislation and plans. So when the Republicans didn't have a replacement plan, here I was on radio. I'm like, I can't defend this. This is embarrassing. You've lost all credibility. Then when they came up with something, I think they called it repeal light. Was that what they were calling it? Like some sort of diet, software. Repeal light. It gets to the final vote in the Senate. And a backstabber does this. John McCain. And on my radio show, I played his television commercials from his Senate campaign, which only happened 7 months prior to his no vote. I played his ads, and he says, I'm John McCain, and I approved this ad. And here what we're going to do is we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and you've got my word, and No. It was a lie. Another broken promise. And so the two reasons why I'm running is that we need people who are willing to be fearless in fighting for their principles and that they're not going to back down. We have enough people who have given in, enough people who have sold out, enough people who have fled. What we need are people who don't quit but stand and fight. And that's what the president is asking for. That's what the president has been really hampered by, is his own party not standing and fighting with him. I think he's on a roll. You look at that State of the Union, and it's ba-bing, ba-bing, ba-bing. Hot economy, stronger defense. We've got a clearer foreign policy. It used to be that our friends didn't trust us and our enemies didn't fear us. Now our friends know that we will have their back, Israel, and that our enemies, Iran, that they will pay a consequence if they go after the United States. By every measure, the State of the Union is so strong. And today the president revealed the Gallup poll numbers about American confidence and satisfaction. Highest it's ever been recorded. We're talking Gallup, by the way. They never like to say good things about Republican administrations. And so you look at this, and here's the question I ask. Can you imagine how much better it would be if the president had support in Congress to get the rest of his agenda done? And could you imagine how hot our economy would be if California wasn't the anvil around the neck of the swimmer? If California didn't have the highest taxes, mandates, fees, and regulatory burden? If California didn't stop, if California would just stop penalizing our entrepreneurs with things like AB5, which bans independent contractors, and you can't drive Uber or Lyft, and you look at this, by every single measure in California, we're dragging the economy down. We are about 1/6 to 1/5 of the size of the United States economy. So when you have 1/5 of your economy, strung out, not pulling its weight, it's a drag on the rest of us. So when the liberals say, well, the president doesn't have 4% GDP, well, it's the hottest GDP we've had in a long time. If you looked at your 401k, and by the way, but for the fact California is involved, our GDP would probably be 4%. And so you look at this, and so that's why we need to take on the fight. Now, I know some of you are probably sitting there saying, well, I'm looking at moving out of California. You don't have to raise your hand. I know it. I know your search results on Redfin and Zillow. I know you're looking at Kentucky and Texas and Arizona. Here's the thing. There are 3 reasons why you should not flee. Number 1, there is no safe space, snowflake. You're running away to where? Arizona? They just elected, they already had a Democrat in Jeff Flake, but they elected someone who's actually with the title Democrat. And then you have another state, Nevada. They just elected a Democrat senator and a Democrat governor and another Democrat member of the House. And then Texas, it's not solidly red anymore. No. Why? Everybody who says, I'm going to go to a solid red state where I actually am proud of the policies and my freedoms are respected, etc. Well, you go to that state, you find that your 4 liberal neighbors followed you because they can't afford to live here anymore. Oh, they loved plastic straw bans. They loved homeless being coddled. They loved the infringement on all of our freedoms. Oh, but they couldn't afford the high cost of living, the $5 a gallon gas. So they followed you. They actually want to vote policies from California into their new abode. Where they're like, yeah, it's cheaper here, but all we have to do is just change the curriculum in the high schools and the grade schools. All we have to do is that's what's happening in those states. So there is no safe space for you to go to. It's not better somewhere else. Second, if we don't stay and fight, our country is on the line. Let me explain why. California has 53 House seats out of 435. If we are to regain the majority, the freedom fighters must make California ground zero. We must pick up 5 to 7 congressional seats to have any mathematical chance of taking the speaker's gavel out of the hands of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Ripping it out there. So mathematically, we have a job. If we run away from this fight, we are consigning America to Democrat socialism, and we must flip that house. Here's the other reason why we need to stay and fight and raise a ruckus out here. The Green New Deal, the socialist ideas that they've proposed, Medicare for all, the socialist takeover of all of our healthcare system. Right now, those are theoretical for most Americans. They hear that and they're like, oh, that sounds awfully nice. It ain't theory out here, honey. It is what we are subjected to. We have socialized medicine. We have those mandates in the Green New Deal. We have the highest taxes in the country. We have $5 a gallon gas. And so when people say, I wonder, maybe they have a point. No, you want to see the real implementation? Come to California and smell it. Walk a city block and you will see what we're talking about. Homelessness, hypodermic needles given out at taxpayer expense. But don't you touch those plastic straws. You won't want to hurt, don't want to destroy the environment. And 51% of California schools failing basic reading, writing, and arithmetic proficiency tests. But by golly, we're going to make sure that we teach sex ed in kindergarten. I don't know if some of you were listening the day that I took the actual state curriculum that was published for sex ed, the controversial thing, paid for by tax dollars, and I wanted to read it on the air. And my producer comes running in 2 minutes before we go to air. She's like, you can't read that on air. I said, well, what do you mean? We'll lose our license. What do you mean? It's a government document. Oh, no, she was right. I had to start the show and talk generically for the first 2 segments while the legal guy was sitting there, no, can't say that, can't say that, can't. But we're teaching it. If you've never read the curriculum, it'll cause you, it's not just, you won't just blush. I mean, it's bad. What we are teaching our kids in school. But this is the time when our schools are failing. So if you want to know what socialism looks like, if you want to know what that agenda looks like, you don't have to wonder. You come to California. This is why I want the president to come back and do a rally. Just one. Do a rally in California, just one. Number one, to give us a little shot of adrenaline and make us know that we're part of the team. But secondly, I want the president to stand in front of the $5 gallon gas sign. I want him to point out the homeless people on the street. Go down to the border and say, see the Tijuana River sewage contaminating the beaches in the bay? This is California. This is what socialism looks like. That's the second reason why we stand and fight in California. And here's the third. I'll be damned if I'm run out of a state that I used to be so proud to call home. I'm going to stand and fight. I'm not letting it happen. We can talk about a lot of policy issues. Most of your questions will cover all the policy issues in Q&A. And everything that we don't cover is on my website, carldemaio.com. But let me talk about how we're going to fight. When they raised the gas tax, I finally said, if the Republican Party is not going to do something about this, let's just do this on our own. How many of you are familiar with my super PAC, Reform California? Okay, it is a citizens super PAC. No big boys are involved, and no big donors. But I said we're going to recall one state senator, and I called it the Gazelle strategy. I guess I was watching the Animal Planet prior to the show, and I was just saying, what we're going to do is we can't take out the governor, because he's at the end of his term. We can't take out every one of the members of the Assembly and the State Senate, although they all deserve their walking papers. What we're going to do is we're going to pick one, just one, and we're going to end their political career. We're going to file a recall. And I'm on air, looking up, who could be our target. And I was looking for the one that won by the fewest votes, because when the Lions picked their Gazelle, they looked for the slow one. Well, I found one that wasn't just slow. I found one with just 3 legs. And I'm like, okay, this is the one that we can go after. He only won by 2,000 votes. So I'm like, oh, it's a Republican seat. We should be able to go after this guy. But more importantly, it was a double whammy. Not only had he voted in the deciding vote for car tax and gas tax increase, but we also saw he was the deciding vote for SB 54, the terrible sanctuary state law. So I'm like, oh, it just all comes together. This is the Gazelle. This is the meal. And so we filed the paperwork. And they said, oh, isn't that cute? The citizens are going to do a recall. Do you know that 99% of recalls fail? I want to take a guess. In the 104 years that we've had the power of recall in the Constitution, do you know how many recalls of state elected officials have succeeded? 5. We were the 5th in 104 years. The 4th one was Gray Davis. And so they're just laughing at us, saying, oh, you're not going to be able. I went to the Republican Party, I said, hey, can we have some money? No. They were afraid of retribution. Sometimes you got to punch the bully back in the nose, okay? Don't worry about the retribution. Stand and fight, because by standing up and fighting, they probably get the message. So we filed the papers, we got the signatures, we were outspent 8-1, but because the ballot said, recall Josh Newman, yes or no, under law, you can't interpret it. You can't, be like, would you like to give him a leave of absence? Would you like to give him a salary increase? Would you like to give him, no, it just said, you want to fire a politician? And they're like, yep. We even carried 57% of Los Angeles. When was the last time common sense prevailed in Los Angeles? And so you sit there, and we did this all on a shoestring budget. They spent $8 million. We spent about $800,000 all in. No help. Then we filed the initiative statewide. 3 sentences, by the way. The gas tax that was increased is hereby rolled back. The car tax that was imposed is hereby nullified. And the state legislature shall not increase a tax or fee on motor vehicles or fuel without a vote first of the people. 3 sentences, real short, tiny. Gas tax repeal initiative is what we called it. Needed 500,000 signatures. State party? Nope, sorry. We don't do policy. We don't do policy. Well, the reason why you're not winning elections is you're not doing policy. Maybe you need to actually say, hey, this is what we're fighting for, gas tax repeal, this is what our candidates are campaigning on. No. It was very arm's length. We got out there, we collected the signatures. How many of you collected signatures for the gas tax repeal? Thank you. 35,000 people statewide collected signatures, an average of 9. How many of you contributed to the gas tax repeal? Thank you. Over 30,000 people contributed, an average of $37. So let me put this in perspective. When people say, well, we can't fight California, it's so blue, it's so controlled by one party. If you can collect 9 signatures and contribute $37, which is just like, 3 gallons of gas, you can shake up a state to its core. We forced them to spend $50 million against us saying, if you pass Prop 6, you're going to get knifed in a back alley and the bridge is going to fall over. They had all the window dressing and the hostage taking going on, which they always do. Whenever they want our tax money, the kids are going to starve, grandma's going to eat cat food, you're going to fall into a ditch. All the nasty, all the things that we want, they start taking hostage, closing down fire stations and police stations, etc. They did a poll in August. We were winning. So what did they do? They took out a red pen and they struck the term gas tax repeal. And they put in eliminates road repairs and transportation projects. One of the reasons why we did gas tax repeal wasn't just because of the high cost of living, the theft of our money. We did it because we knew not a penny of the existing gas tax, which was already the second highest in the country, was going to fix the roads. We are all about fixing our roads. We're just angry that they've stolen the money and they've lied to us. And so they changed the title, and then, get this, a 3 cents initiative. The summary, my 3 sentences were shorter than the summary that they wrote. You can't make this crap up. And the media just kind of lets it slide. So they got their ill-gotten win. We started at a 22% yes with the bad title and summary, and we moved it all the way up to 46, just on a grassroots campaign. Now, here's the thing. I'm disappointed we didn't get it done. But when someone lies, cheats, and steals, when they manipulate the game, when they steal the election, do you say, oh, okay, well, I'll just have to accept it? No. You come back and you fight and you fight and you fight and you never let in. You never give up. And that's why I'm so proud to see what our president's doing. If he had said, okay, Paul Ryan shafted me, didn't give me my $6 billion, and then they shut down the government, and the Democrats didn't give me my money. You know what he did? He sat there, he said, give me the best lawyer in town. I have executive order powers. I can just take it, but fine, let's do it. And of course, they sue. And what happened in the lawsuits? They lost. And now we have that beautiful wall going up on the border. And so, again, I will say that some of you will think that it's too hard to fight in California. We just warmed up the engine with gas tax repeal. We just warmed it up. What we're seeing in this campaign is the fruit of that rebuilding of the infrastructure. Prior to the gas tax repeal, the state Republican Party did not have a statewide volunteer list. We now have more than 50,000 volunteers signed up statewide. Prior to the gas tax repeal, the state Republican Party was beholden to a few big dollar donors, but very little on the grassroots. We now have built a grassroots donor network. It's not going to the state party. We're raising it here for this campaign. 24 hours into this campaign, we broke a national record. History was made. We raised $250,000 from 4,000 donors. Average contribution, $64. Now, if I were a Democrat, that would have been national news. And the news media was like, oh, wow, a Democrat in California is breaking records. It's the next AOC. Oh, he's a Republican? Yeah, not interested. Only shiny objects on the left to get any sort of attention. And we've continued. I'm up against a guy with $400 million who's writing $1 million checks. He must really need his ego stroked. $1 million checks to buy a seat. We're earning the seat $1 at a time, 1 vote at a time. And I think that is going to send a national message. But that what it is, though, is a reflection of that movement the energy that is here in California. So with some of you who say, California's a lost cause, Carl, look at the little sprouts of green coming up. They're coming up. Have faith and hope that we can do this. That's why I've said from the get-go, this is not just about saving the congressional seat. It's about lighting the match, sparking the revolt to take back the state of California. With that, comments, questions, suggestions. Let's cover any issue, any policy question, any suggestion. Who wants to start us out? Yes, sir, up here in the front.
I don't hear you on KFI, John and Ken. Right?
Why am I not on the radio? Because FCC rules prohibit it. I offered to do the show for free. I said, you don't have to pay me, because they said it would be a campaign contribution if they were paying me for air. No, FCC says if I were on the air for 3 hours a day, my opponents would have to be on the air for 3 hours a day. It's called equal time rule. So I miss it. But can you imagine that the choice I had to make was giving up a job I absolutely love? And when the time I had the most fun is when they gave me my soundboard. And I got to hit the different little sounds. I came up with the Pelosi deepfake before it was popular, okay? I said, there's something wrong with her. I think it's either her dentures or she's had too much wine. Little did I know. And so I would have done it for free. I said, just let me do it for free. And nope, they don't let me do it for free. So I miss it. I know many of you say, I want you back on the radio. We will have a daily report from Washington. And it will still be called The Story Behind the Story, because I plan to lift the veil. I plan to talk about what's going on in the halls of Congress. I'm going to be the skunk at the garden party. I'm not going to get any invites to the secret meetings. But we'll figure out what's going on, and I'll give you the update. Yes, sir?
We spent a lot of time talking about the Republican thing. And we're, in general, I assume most of us are Republicans here. We're going to vote for you or Daryl. So can you take...
Not Daryl.
Well, the point is to come to these and to learn. I'm going to try to go to Daryl's thing. But
Wait, does he have one? Actually, this is a good question. This is my 56th town hall since August 5th in the district. Daryl Issa has yet to hold even one.
It'll be hard for me to go.
0. So it would be hard. But you can meet him on the top of a roof. Apparently he hangs out at roofs to look down. But anyway, I'm just being joking. Go ahead.
A bunch of time talking about how you're different than him. I mean, you know, we get these brochures out
I know.
saying that you don't do this, you don't do that, et cetera, et cetera. Can you address some of that? What is real?
So here's a typical thing that happens in the swamp. Career politician says one thing, goes to Washington for 20 years, and votes completely opposite.
And done nothing for us.
Hopes that the secret is kept. Then they actually get into a real race. And it's not like in his old seat, Democrats would say, you know, he supported amnesty, because they kind of like that stuff. No, he gets into a real race here, and now his record's coming out. So he knew going into this what his major problems were. Number one, he betrayed the president time and time again. In fact, if you go to Issa Betrayed Trump, you'll see a whole list of things that he cut and run on the president on and actually outright opposed him on. The biggest one that caught my eye, you had McCain, and McCain never liked Trump. McCain was behind the Steele dossier getting out there just to humiliate the president. That's what McCain did. And now it's already documented in fact that that's what happened. And so you had McCain do that to the president. But the only person who came out and said, we need a special prosecutor to investigate the president and his family over the Russia collusion allegation was Daryl Issa. February 27th, 2017. On the Bill Maher show. Who hangs out on the Bill Maher show? You know, don't go to a liberal, show and try to kissy. No, special prosecutor. And that lit the match to go after the whole witch hunt. But more importantly, on the issue of border, there are many Republicans who take the campaign cash of big business. Why? Big business wants cheap labor. In order to get cheap labor, they want open borders. And so time and time again, we're promised a wall. We're promised E-Verify. And time again, the politicians give amnesty, but they don't actually secure the border. They don't actually enforce the law. And so Daryl Issa has cashed those checks, and he wrote the amnesty law in October of 2013. It's on the website, ISSAsupportsamnesty.com. He voted twice for amnesty, H.R. 6136, June 2018. Once he knew that he was quitting and leaving his district. He said, okay, now I can vote the way I want, and he voted for amnesty twice. To put that in perspective, Duncan Hunter voted no on H.R. 6136. Say what you want about his mistakes, and they were egregious. He was a hawk when it came to securing the border, and I appreciated that about him. I can't fathom replacing a Duncan Hunter vote on H.R. 36, a no vote, with Darrell Issa's yes vote for amnesty. I could go on and on, but this is the highlight. Now let me talk about my record. I can't sugarcoat it. Darrell Issa is lying. And this is the other trick of the swamp politician. When they know that they got a bad record, they say, okay, people are going to see my record, so what do I have to do? I've got to create confusion by saying everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. It's just not true. My record's pretty clear. I've spent 5 years on the radio. The best he can do is cut and paste clips out of context entirely. So that's my response. The biggest, if people were to really get the honest assessment, outside the policy issues, I think it really is just grit. Darrell is a quitter, and I'm a fighter. And the best example of that is he left his district high and dry. With like 39 other feckless, cowardly Republicans who left the House in 2018, making it easier for the Democrats to pick up those seats. And where are we now? We've had to live through impeachment for a year and a half, and nothing has been done on the issues we care about.
Exactly.
Those 39 Republicans are responsible for the House flipping. They should have stayed and fought alongside the president. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Okay, so Carl, because we're on the topic, let's just get something out of the way right now, and I think you'll be happy to address it. You were talking about the clipping of sound bites. In his ad, bashing you, he says, I assume that you were doing a podcast or radio show, whatever, where you were talking about Trump, President Trump, being, unattractive.
Rude, crude.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. Here's what I've always said about the president. The president can be salty, rough around the edges. He's a New York developer businessman. All right? Why are you surprised? This is just who he is. And here's the thing. I think it's more of an indictment of the corruptness and the dysfunction of the swamp that we're like, yeah, that's fine. As long as you clean up the swamp, we don't care. I likened it to you hire a plumber. The plumber shows up, and he's your standard plumber. You always are happy to hire, and you kind of say, okay, I'll refer it to my friends. He shows up, body odor, plumber's crack, no teeth. But you know what? He unplugs that toilet, and he never steals your money by telling you need to do something you don't need to do. That's what we want in President Trump. We want someone who's going to go back there and unclog that dirty toilet. And that's why we support him. And it's a dirty job. He's got a lot to have to attack him. He lets it roll off
So there was.
his head.
That was spoken out of context on his.
Oh, absolutely. It's cut and paste.
So you were just discussing, let's just take this, for example, like you said about a plumber, this is the fact check.
Yeah. Next, they're going to say that I said Donald Trump has, plumber's crack. I mean, this is what these people do. These people know they can't run on their record, so they try to say, well, let's cut and paste. I will tell you this. That is what we need to reject in politics. That's what the swamp does to try to continue to keep their offices and try to keep their positions in D.C. And you know what? Unfortunately, a lot of times it works. In this race, had we not had the grassroots funding support to put up the truth, Darrell Issa would have bought a seat, and we would have had amnesty for another 20 years. Yes, sir.
Carl, I don't know if we're ever going to get the Mexican government to pay for the wall.
Yeah, we will.
But what I would like to see is we start charging the country of Mexico for every illegal alien we start returning. $2,000 the first time, $5,000 the next time, $10,000 the next time. If they don't want to pay it, take it out of NAFTA.
I think that's great, but here's the 5-point plan that I put out. Roger Hedgecock, who's been a great mentor of mine, he started the Hold Their Feet to the Fire tour with the Federation for American Immigration Reform because he correctly saw that politicians were lying to us. And he said, what we need to do is we need to go to Washington and say, knock, 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 we're here. We know you lied to us. And so now we're going to start doing Radio Row. They did Radio Row. They did once a year. He endorsed me and my plan, along with Christopher Harris, former Secretary of San Diego Border Patrol Council, as well as Agnes Gibney, Angel Mom, you saw her on TV just a month ago. Her son's killer was given early release under Prop 57 in the state of California. How nice. But the president saw her plight. And even though California with sanctuary state law did not give a single bit of notice, not a single bit of information, the president said, you're going to get that guy. And he's going to be deported. I don't care what it takes. And sure enough, even with California sanctuary state, Agnes Giboney's son's killer was rounded up and deported. That just happened a month ago. She stood with me and endorsed me. And so here's the 5-point plan that they're behind. Number 1, build the wall and fully staff it. Right now we have thousands of Border Patrol positions that are held vacant, intentionally held vacant. Millennials want to get a job and they want to know, do I have an offer letter, yes or no, in 48 hours? It can take 24 months for Border Patrol to offer a job. By that point, the person's like, you know I applied 2 years ago, right? I already have a job. I'm actually, vested in the 401k. This is just crazy. So thousands of positions at the Border Patrol not funded by design. They don't want it funded. Again, this is all part of, if you follow the money, there's a reason why we don't have a secure border. So step 1 is secure the border by building the wall, give them the technology, the tools, and the staffing to do it. Number 2, give them the legal authority to do their job. Close the loopholes in immigration laws and the asylum laws. Now, the president has done a lot of this through executive order, but we need to codify his policies into statute. They've sued, and he's prevailed. What do we have to do on asylum? We have to say, you're not allowed to just simply show up. You must apply for asylum under my proposal in the country of origin or the side country at the consulate or at an embassy. Also, I'm going to deputize State Department officials and Border Patrol agents to make a determination of credible fear in the field. Right now, they say, okay, let me take down your case. Here's your ticket number. You're number 287,454 on the wait list. And they say, okay, so what do I do? Come back to your court hearing in 2.5 years. 89% of them don't show up. 90% of the claims are rejected. And so what do? They get into this country, they have an anchor baby, they get married, or they just simply disappear. Under our proposal, if you want to challenge the determination of our field agent, you can do that. We're a fair country. But you must post bond in order to trigger a court hearing. You're not a citizen. You don't have a right to say, I demand a judge and I demand the whole process. No. You can post the bond, and if we made an error in denying your asylum application, we'll cover the costs. But if we didn't make an error or you don't show up, then we're keeping your bond. And you might say, well, how are people going to afford this? Do you realize what cottage industry George Soros is funding? All these, quote, nonprofit charities that actually are running TV ads, radio ads, newspaper ads in Guatemala, in Honduras, saying, come on up, the gravy train's rolling. They are spending money, they're hiring legal representation for illegal immigrants to sue. In the state of California, we actually said, hey, Soros, keep your money. We're going to use taxpayer money. $100 million of legal aid last year for illegal immigrants. If you are a business owner in California and you are given a shakedown lawsuit under PAGA or ADA, and you say, it's going to bankrupt me. Oh, what do I do? Well, I hear they're doing free legal assistance in California for people who are on hard luck. Hey, can I get a free attorney to fight the PAGA? No, your business is out of business. You're done. Your lawyer fees are going to eat you up. But if you're a legal immigrant, oh, so sorry, let us take care of all the legal bills for you. So when people say that's not a fair system, I say, oh, it's quite fair. There's more than enough to make this process legitimately fair if someone says, I disagree with the agent. And our agents are State Department officials. If there is a true refugee, if someone is truly being persecuted, they will go by the book and they'll say, okay, this person has made the case, they've documented it, you can come in. We are a generous country. To suggest otherwise is offensive. Third, after we secure the border with the infrastructure and the staffing, close the loopholes in the laws, with the asylum process being the biggest loophole. Third, shut down the illegal employment in California and the rest of the country through the full mandatory implementation of E-Verify. Right now, E-Verify is optional. No, mandatory. Not only does my proposal put civil penalties in for noncompliance, but if you are habitually noncompliant, we will go after a business manager criminally for violations. After a certain number of civil fines, okay, all right, you're worse than Kathy Lee Gifford. You're running a sweatshop. We're going after you. Criminal liability has to be part of E-Verify, or else we will not get the sort of compliance that we need. You got to make sure the people who get jobs in this country are legally compliant. Fourth, the job is one of the draws for illegal immigrants. The welfare is another one. And so under my proposal, no welfare, period, end of story. If you legally come to this country, you will post a bond. Oh, look at all these bonds that we're posting. Yes, we're making the system accountable. Doesn't mean that your bond is going to be taken. Doesn't mean that it will ultimately end up costing you money. It's you are putting some earnest money up front. And if you do dip into our public welfare system, if you're a legal citizen, the first 5 years, we will offset those losses. And of course, you violated your visa, so now we have to assess, are you going to get a job? Are you going to make up for those benefits? Or is this probably not the right fit for you? We have to ensure that public welfare does not go to the illegal immigrants, and that if you are legally here, that there is a specific period by which you are not drawing from that assistance. You have to first pay in. Finally, we have to make our immigration system merit-based.
Yes.
The RAISE Act is what the president has supported. It basically changes from the lottery and who you know to what you know and who you are. It's standard-based, and it's colorblind, religion blind. It just basically says, here are the criteria. Black, blue, green, Muslim, Christian, agnostic. Here are the criteria. If you meet the criteria, then you go to the top of the list. A legal, fair, merit-based process. Those are the 5 things that we need to insist on. Now you might say, well, those are great. How are you going to get it done? Hot poker. Hot poker. No, I don't mean just standing there and holding my breath and saying, I'm with the president. No. How many of you remember the Build the Walls GoFundMe page from about 1.5 years ago?
Yes.
$20 million raised in 4 days. And I said on air, I love what you're doing. I totally agree with the goal, but you're going about this all the wrong way. Because $20 million will do basically what I predicted would happen. Half of a mile of a wall. No. See, you don't need to do a GoFundMe page. You've already paid for that wall. You've paid for that wall about 5 or 6 times. It's called your tax dollars. You were promised a wall in 86, in 98, in 2006. We have paid for the wall, and it has never materialized. And so don't dip into your pocket and pay for something again. No. Dip into your pocket one time to throw the bums out that aren't keeping their pledge. Use that $20 million as a super PAC. That $20 million basically equates to about 20 to 30 Republicans who are weak-kneed on the border getting a primary challenge funded against them. So where you go to them and say, hey, Darrell Issa, you've been voting for amnesty. You called the border wall unnecessary. We're going to primary you in your next election. And of course, Darrell Issa is going to say, well, I have $400 million. I'll write my own check. I'll buy the seat. But at least with that money, we can say, no. We're going to make it real hard. You're going to write a lot of personal checks if you're going to keep your seat, because we've got 1 million of the 20 million targeted towards your seat. I guarantee you, just by having that and making that threat, the 20 to 30 weak-kneed Republicans on this issue, they're suddenly going to get real serious. When the Chamber of Commerce comes in with the big PAC check and says, we want open borders and we're going to contribute. Sorry, just got to let you know, I'll take your money. That's what they do. But I got to let you know, I'm not going to be with you because the citizens have got the hammer. I'm gone if I violate my pledge. Then what do you do with the 20 million once you don't have to use it on Republicans? You go and you say, oh, now let's go and flip seats from open border Democrats back to reasonable representation. Let's start playing the game aggressively and strategically like the other side. That's what I proposed, and guess what? A super PAC has now been formed to help me do that. And just like AOC going around the country saying, if you don't support socialism, she's going to fund an opponent against you. You've heard about that, right?
Yep.
I don't like her policies, but I look at what she's doing and saying, well, if that's how she's drawing everyone into socialism, how about we get people back to freedom and security? Let's reverse engineer it on this side. So, and guess what? I think I can totally do much better than AOC. My ideas are better, and I don't get my ideas from a coloring book. So I know that we can totally do a much better job than what she's doing. I just need to get there. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, sir.
How are you going to get us out of this sanctuary state crap?
First and foremost, we're not proposing to get us out. We're doing it. It's already underway. First, Josh Newman lost his job in the state Senate because he was the deciding vote on SB 54. Our polling showed it was gas tax and SB 54. We were able to get a double whammy on him. Second, here in San Diego County, when the president sued the state of California on sanctuary state, and by the way, that lawsuit is still pending, and it's going to get to the Supreme Court, and we're going to win because of Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. I love what is happening with the judges, don't you?
Yes.
Oh, it's just marvelous. I can't use Ninth Circus Court of Appeals anymore as the moniker. It's again the Ninth Circuit. It's getting better. But what we did was we said the president needs to have cities and counties in California telling the court that, hey, the legislature does not speak for us. And so it's something called a amicus brief, a friend of the court brief, that the cities and counties can file with the court saying, the county of San Diego wants to make it quite clear to the court that we believe that the sanctuary state law is violating our constitutional rights, is dangerous, we're on record. Because what they were doing is saying, oh, all these people wanted it, these people said they wanted it. No. So here in San Diego, when I first pitched this, the Board of Supervisors said, don't raise this issue, it's divisive. I said, I'm raising the issue. You either can be run over or you can be on the train. Pick your seat. And so we got 3 votes on the San Diego County Board of Supervisors to get our county on record in support of President Trump. On sanctuary state, if it requires that we do a companion initiative to the gas tax repeal, the second gas tax repeal that we're working on, the honest balloting initiative that we're working on, it's cheap to collect signatures on multiple initiatives. You see the people in front of the door. It's like, hey, do you want to save pets? Sure, cats and dogs, love them. Okay, how about you sign all 9 of these? And you're like, what am I signing? I got too much to do. What if the reformers had 1 or 2 petitions, and one was sanctuary state repeal, and the other was truth in balloting combination with gas tax repeal, putting the gas tax back on the ballot with a true, proper title? That's the sort of approach I'm going to take on this issue. But I do believe we're going to prevail at the Supreme Court. I believe sanctuary state will be overturned, and the president will be able to compel local governments and state governments to cooperate. Yes, ma'am, in black, right there.
Yeah, Carl, this Proposition 13 bond, it's another bait and switch.
Yes.
Because the legislature is trying to change Prop 13 from 2/3 vote majority down to the 55%, correct?
Correct. So 2 things are happening on Prop 13. First and foremost, recognize, no matter what you're told by the liar, cheats, and thieves from Sacramento, they have always, since 1978, been trying to get rid of Prop 13. Now, what they're going to tell you right now is, we're not going after single-family home property tax relief. Prop 13 for single-family homes will stay in place. No, that's what they're saying. The measure on the ballot, I'm going to deal with the first assault on Prop 13, the real Prop 13. That measure's on the ballot, and it eliminates Prop 13 for retail, commercial, multifamily apartments, and industrial properties. In other words, everything but a standalone home. Why are they doing it that way? Because they know that if they went after Prop 13, you and me, we would be like, hells no. When you say, well, it's not your property tax, it's the rich guy over there. Well, recognize that, apartment buildings, who pays the rent? Working folk. When you raise retail property taxes, you think they just take it? No. They say, we're going to raise the price of a coffee. We're going to raise the price of the t-shirt. We're going to raise, everything starts going up. Inflation goes through the roof. And if you raise the price on industrial properties, what businesses are going to want to locate in California to create jobs? It's net, net, net. a sucker punch in terms of the cost of operating a business and cost of living. But why are they separating us out? There's one simple reason. Now, you might say there's more of us than them. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But they are going after the rich folk first because they have the money to stop a Prop 13 repeal. And so the business groups right now are all putting money into a campaign to say, don't vote yes on this initiative. Suppose they lose. They're going to raise the prices on us. Some of the businesses are going to leave the state. They're going to sell property. It's going to be a problem. But some of them will remain. What's going to happen to us? The Democrats will immediately file a new initiative saying, go after homeowners. And you might say, well, then that's when we all band. Oh, no one's going to fund our campaign. We're defenseless. The big boys are the ones that write the checks. Now, that's the old mindset of Democrats, because they know that if they can buy off the lobbyists and the business groups in Sacramento like they did on the gas tax, that nobody's going to have the money to do this. What did we show? Oh, you can try to do it, but working together, the citizens actually can, at $37 a pop, knock you back in the nose. We can actually stand up for ourselves. Here's the problem I'm having, though, my only concern. My only concern is not whether we can fight them. In a fair fight, we win. Here's my concern. Do you know what they call the repeal of Prop 13? They don't say property tax increase. They don't say partial repeal of Prop 13. You know what they call it? The Children Welfare and School Improvement Initiative. The word tax appears nowhere. They call it a property assessment formula. You can't make this crap up. And when you see the description, you're looking at it, you're like, this seems like Greek. There's a reason why. It doesn't say, hey, this is a tax. So they're calling it all sorts of nice stuff. Prop 13. That number was retired in 1978. Why? Because when we talk about Prop 13, we all know what we're talking about. It's not like Prop 64. You're like, which year? Let me look at the internet. Was that the marijuana one, or was that the kidney dialysis? Prop 13, we all know what we're talking about. We all love it. So what did they do? After 41 years of retiring Prop 13 and never giving it to any initiative because it wouldn't be fair, they put Prop 13 on the largest bond we've ever encountered. Debt. A big bond. And they said, guess what? We're going to put 13 on this one, and they're all going to vote for it. So here's what we're doing with the gas tax. It brings me back to the initiative I referenced. We will not have citizen check on our government. We will not have the ability to do a referenda, to do an initiative, to hold our government accountable at the ballot box unless we have honest elections. And so our honest balloting initiative has 3 sections in it. Section 1, no citizen's initiative title shall be changed by any politician. Whatever the citizen signed is what it will appear on as the ballot. Any initiative put on by the politicians shall not be described in a title by the politicians, but it shall go to the legislative analyst's office, and it shall be subject to lawsuit and judicial review. That's number 1. Take the titles out of the hands of the politicians. Number 2, any measure that has the effect of causing any individual or organization to pay more on anything, fee or tax, shall begin with the 2 words bold and capitalized, tax increase. So you know, it's coming a mile away. It's a tax increase. Oh, and number 3, and this is the one that is quite creative, and I can't wait till they read this, because they're really going to say, damn it. The 3rd section says, because we're talking about one single subject of making sure that the ballot measures are properly described on the ballot, it says, any proponent of a citizen's initiative filed 2018 or later shall have standing to sue in court, asking the court to place the measure back on the ballot with a proper title for revote. We're going to get gas tax repeal back on the ballot, and we're not going to have to collect the signatures a second time. The other item that we're going to be going after is a federal civil rights First Amendment lawsuit on the issue of ballot titles. And this came from what I did when I helped the crisis pregnancy centers, the faith-based crisis pregnancy centers of San Diego. When the state of California passed a bill saying that they have to counsel in favor of abortion, I said this is a violation of religious freedom, First Amendment. It's also a violation of free speech. Because free speech is not that you have a right just to say what you want to say. You have that right. The court has held free speech also means that you can't be compelled to speak something that you do not want to speak. Compelled speech is in violation of the First Amendment. So I said, look, the crisis pregnancy centers are all charity-based. They don't get a dime of government money. They don't agree with abortion. Yet the state of California is trying to get them to violate their First Amendment, free speech, freedom of religion rights. So we brought on the lawyers and we raised money. On my radio show, we had these folks on incessantly. And we waged the battle. And we won. And that bill, that law, was nullified in the state of California just 9 months ago. A big victory for religious freedom and freedom of speech. But it got me thinking, why not apply that same cause of action to them changing our title on our ballot? Because now you are compelling speech that I did not write. I wrote an initiative. It was 3 sentences. You just compelled me to speak something that I did not write, and I did not agree with, and I did not do. Sort of like Daryl Issa. So that's what we're doing on that initiative. 2 last questions. Yes, sir? Right there in the pull down.
A lot in the Republican Party is no one talking about fiscal responsibility.
Yes.
So, I mean, Trump's doing a lot of great stuff, but he's got some bad ideas. The infrastructure plan, that's insane amount of money that I don't think really needs to be spent.
Look, I think Trump is always willing to accept good ideas, so I'm going to get back there and show them how we can actually get better infrastructure without raising the gas tax.
And the other thing is a paid family leave. I mean, he's another entitlement that we really don't need to pay for.
So
people have had kids for thousands and millions of years without anybody paying for them.
and we can go through item by item in the budget, but the fundamental issue that we're having is that how can you argue against socialism with all of its problems and the impossible cost if the Republican Party itself has surrendered fiscal austerity and responsibility? And so that's why we need to, and I'm proud of the fact that the Club for Growth is playing in this race in favor of me. They are the gold standard when it comes to opposing debt limit increases. Endless debt. We're at $23 trillion in debt. That is a national emergency at this point. And so I think part of what we need to do is get people back there who understand the federal budget, and you can go through it. When I was on San Diego City Council, I was the first city council member ever to author my own budget plan. And then when we defeated Prop D in 2010, the tax increase, they had no money because they had already spent the tax increase before the voters rejected it. They had spent 6 months of tax increases that they didn't actually have approval for. And I remember we went into closed session and they're looking around like ash and white, like, we're gonna have to shut down things. I'm like, no. I've got good news and bad news. First, the good news. It was 822 pages long. Here is the budget plan. Item by item, line by line. We balanced the budget. No tax increases needed. And guess what? I actually have some money in here that will allow us to restore the fire stations and the library hours. And they're like, okay, so what's the bad news? Oh, the bad news is you have to go to your union bosses, your labor union masters, and tell them that they got to take a haircut. It's time to tighten the belt. We're going to do pension reform. We're going to do some outsourcing. We're actually going to require that you contribute an equal share for the benefits that you've been given. That's really when they were ash and white. They thought it was bad because they're like, oh God, we have a budget problem. Now they realize, no, we have a political problem. We have to go to our masters and say, no, can't do. Got to have actual reform. So in Washington, I think part of it is lack of commitment. The other part of it is lack of smarts on, so where do we start? How do we cut the budget? How do we actually reprogram? How do we restructure? And I'm eager. It's like, put me in the game, coach. Give me the red pen. Let me have a couple of days and just page after page, we'll get it done.
Paul Ryan, for all his talking about this, was a phony.
We'll be able to get it done. One last comment or question. Yes, sir, right up here.
My perception is that in 2020, the Republicans' Achilles heel is going to be health care. The Democrats have a plan or plans. They may be terrible, but we have nothing as far as I can tell. What are we going to do?
This gentleman up here, it's on a key concern that the president has, that I have, and that is healthcare affordability. Healthcare costs are skyrocketing because of Obamacare. And people are worried, rightfully so. What are the Democrats offering? They're offering even more government intrusion, mandates, taxes, and fees. Less control. They literally want a government takeover of our healthcare system. And as the president correctly said in the State of the Union, this will compromise programs like Medicare for our seniors. And if you ever want to imagine what it would be like if we had government-run healthcare, ask a veteran. Ask a veteran. Which, by the way, my proposal on that, strip members of Congress of their concierge doctor. They have a concierge doctor. One doctor to see 435 individuals. You drop it in a hat, you know? Oh, and they get gold-plated health care benefits on top of that. I strip them of that. We're going to put them into the VA healthcare system. And they're going to have to stand in line like the veterans. And, you know, imagine that. I think we're going to get some really good reform real quick at the VA. But how many of you heard of my plan I released in November? It's called Freedom Care. So Freedom Care is on my website. It's freedomcare.org. And the reason why I came up with it is I don't believe in criticizing someone else's idea unless I have a suitable alternative. And it is detailed. It's been put together by healthcare professionals, doctors and nurses, actual practitioners. What it does is it tries to bend the healthcare curve. And how do you do that? You get government out of the way. You get government out of the way of our doctors and our nurses. Quick factoid for you. Since 1998, virtually every sector of our economy, every service, every product is actually cheaper today than it was in 1998, adjusted for inflation. It's cheaper today. Cell phones, TVs, software, computers, food, clothes, cheaper today. Appliances, cheaper today. A lot of it is just efficiency and innovation and technology. There are two sectors that stand out as far, far more expensive today than in 1998, even adjusted for inflation. Healthcare is one of them, obviously, 220% outstripping inflation. What's the other one? College education. And lo and behold, what is the commonality there? Both have rampant government expansion and involvement. So Freedom Care is all about bending the cost curve, empowering the doctor, the nurse, the patient to make healthcare decisions. It's all about healthy living. It's all about using technology. It's all about portable medical records so that you have like a Facebook-like, but not run by Facebook, system where all of your health records are there and it uses data analytics, and it's an opt-in system. It's not compulsory. And so I want you to read the Freedom Care Plan because people who are even not healthcare professionals can read it and say, I totally get this. freedomcareplan.org. If you go to carldemaio.org and click under healthcare, it's the first thing you see. But yes, we have to have a plan because what the other side is offering is a free lunch. Socialism can easily be described as any government that offers you everything you want can also take everything you have. Starting with your freedom. They never start with your money. It's always with your freedom. The money is easy to get thereafter. And so we have to have a suitable alternative. And there are some ideas back in Washington, but no actual comprehensive plan that you can actually put on the House floor and say, vote on it. Whereas the government takeover, they've got the legislation already written. They just are waiting for the disaster of Obamacare to fulfill their crisis for a vote. All right, I'm going to stay for one-on-ones because I do want to be respectful of your time. It is 7 o'clock. 3 things that I ask of you. Besides, if you want to stay and ask questions, I'm here. Number 1, I would like to earn your vote. I cannot do this. I cannot buy this like my opponent. I have to earn it. And I hope that you would be willing to take a chance on me and say, 20 years for one guy, maybe that's too long. Give the fighter a little bit of time. Second, more than your vote, I'd also like to earn your voice. you would be amazed at the word of mouth marketing that has driven things on social media. Think about a book that you might have bought or a movie you went to see. You might have done it because a friend said, oh, you gotta go see this movie, it's amazing. It's so funny. This book's gonna change your life. Your word of mouth endorsement or recommendation or suggestion is gold for our movement. So I need you to take a little bit of time to go home on your computer, just hit reply all to emails, or just send it to your entire address book and say, if you've ever been disgusted by politics, well, that gets you all. Check out this guy. He is going to be a bit different than anything we've seen. Third, one way to give me a voice is to contribute. And I know no one likes to contribute to politics, but we are funded $5, $10, $20 at a time. And it is astounding, the special interest from the swamp. They thought this race was over. And then they saw what our grassroots donors were helping us achieve in terms of a voice. Some people don't like donating, so buy something. We have Make California Great Again hats. We have freedom straws. They actually say freedom on the side of them. We've got socialism doesn't mean free blank. We have a salty version and a clean version. We've got t-shirts and buttons and whatnot. Please have a voice by considering a purchase of one of those items or contributing. They make great dad gifts, by the way. If you find a liberal say, I gotta make a California Great Again hat, would you like one? Yeah, it's for an interesting conversation. So help me with those three things. We do have another event coming up in Escondido. We have literally an event a day. This is my 56th event in the district since August 5th. We have something called Barbecue Beer and Ballots. It's coming up. It's our version of ballot harvesting. We want to get people to have a fun time, have barbecue and beer, and because the ballot is so confusing and you got rip-offs like Prop 13 on the ballot, and Measure C, the tax hike, what we're going to do is we're going to give them a voter guide, and then they're invited to hear from an election expert, Carl DeMaio, in answering any of their questions about what's on the ballot. So please take some of the invites to the BBB meeting coming up, and hand them out at your church, hand them out at your place of work or your community center, because that helps us turn out the vote before the election and make sure the ballots are returned. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Please give me a chance, give this movement a chance. Let's suspend our despondency and our frustration with California and say, maybe we could do it, fight. Maybe we could take the state back. I promise you, you're going to see the green sprouts. Thank you so much.